Taking existing elements and kind of recreating them.
Yeah.
In the moment.
Which is what I thought was interesting with one of your questions about the fear of digital performance manipulation. Like, actors' performances have been manipulated from the very beginning, right? This is one of the criticisms that theater performers basically attacked cinema as an early art form. You know, it wasn't a real performance because it was just created in the editing. You know, Eisenstein's the very idea and the way that they teach, you know, cinema. Here's a baby, here's an expression, here's a dead body, here's an expression. You know, the juxtaposition creates performance all the time and manipulates an actor's performance. And then it gets even more kind of strange and you know, you decide to use a moment where somebody's just crossing a doorway. That wasn't necessarily the moment that the actor was intending for a scene, or, you know, a mic.
Cut it and the guy's about to like cut the camera and the actor does something funny. Oh wow, that's not bad. Let's get that. Let's steal that
and put it in.
That's right.
And then in the same way, you know, they're actors. They don't sometimes get what the director wants. And so in the post-process, you begin taking little parts or inflections or words and creating a performance, you know? I mean, legendary stories about this throughout the history of cinema. So performance is always created in the editing room. It's part of what editing is. Like, making 3 movies has its own challenges for people who are kind of visually and aesthetically minded. We were very afraid of what we saw in a lot of sequels, which was this sort of commodifying process, or really a kind of commodifying ossification of an original idea. So from the very beginning, the philosophical arc of the trilogy was conceived. That was what we wanted to do, that all in one movie, but we couldn't quite fit it. And it was the idea of this philosophical investigation. What is reality? How do I know? What do I know? And then you come to a revelation or a moment of enlightenment, and then you basically assault that moment of enlightenment and you deconstruct it. So we wanted to go through the sort of postmodern deconstruction of all those ideas. And then we wanted to say, okay, now where do we go after we deconstruct everything that we thought we believed or thought we knew? And that was going to be the revolutions. And at the same time, we were like kind of trying to change the way, you know, we were explaining that we always thought it was funny that no one actually noticed that the movies are matrices. That we thought that would be like the instantaneous sort of insight somebody would have, like, oh, well, you know what, you're making this matrix, but movies are matrices. Because you go into a movie and they tell you how to feel, they tell you what to think, they basically sort of cocoon you and separate you, and you turn your thinking apparatus off. Well, the whole arc of the path is that the first one shows this sort of choice world of red and blue pill, but then the second one gets to the same exact paradigm. So there's 2 doors. The doors are exactly the same as the red pill, blue pill. But the whole point is that by the time Neo is at the door, you want the audience to be conjoined with Neo so that you understand that there is no choice, that choice is in itself an illusion. And that's what we were trying to do with the visual metaphor. Again, a symbol. You know, we're trying to like say things visually through the whole trilogy that are often overlooked or not seen. But there's a series of shots with the architect where you're moving from Neo talking to all the monitors, and he says all these different things, but then you move towards one monitor and that becomes reality again. So here's a visual metaphor that we're trying to say, this huge field of choices is like going to the grocery store and you see all these labels of all these different products, but they're all made by the same exact company. And this was an idea that we had, that there is something in our makeup that really has almost made up our mind before we get there. And so Neo doesn't really have a choice. He's going to go save Trinity, which was then we were juxtaposing the idea of what is a Messiah. So you're trying to say like, okay, you're interrogating the reality of a Messiah or the paradigm of a Messiah. And we're like, well, all these other Messiahs in history, Jesus, Buddha, whatever, they love everyone in this sort of equanimical way where Neo's shown all these people, and we love that Keanu's reaction is so great. He was like, what am I supposed to be doing here? And we're like, exactly that. You are so not connected to all those people. But me as a person, I can't.
Right.
I can't access that. And so we were kind of wondering, well, is maybe a Messiah more interesting, or is it a new paradigm if a Messiah loved the way we love?
Mm-hmm.
Like, where does that get us?
Right.
And so that kind of led us then to the third movie, which has a whole other history to it. But while we were going through it, we just kept saying like, God, I'm just so sick of the way all these movies look the same. They're just like the same. Yeah, and transcendence of a material identity, that he is delimited in that moment, is more important to us than any kind of religious iconic things. But we're also trying to play with the meaning of the iconic symbols, because the third movie, like Cloud Atlas, asks you to participate in it. This is what we wanted to do with the trilogy, and it was the experiment from the beginning was, could you change the general way that audiences participate in a, let's say, an action movie, right? So you start off, and the first movie is the most typical movie, and we always said from the beginning, why don't people say what we thought immediately, which was movies are matrices. Movies are things you go inside, and they are immersive, and you are cocooned by them, and they tell you what to see, what to think, what to feel. And then we thought, well, that's for us problematic. We thought that what we were trying to achieve with the story overall was a shift, the same kind of shift that happens for Neo, that Neo goes from being in this sort of cocooned and programmed world to having to participate in the construction of meaning to his life. And we're like, well, can the audience go through the three movies and experience something similar to what the main character experiences? So the first movie is sort of classical in its approach, and the second movie is deconstructionist, and it assaults all of the things that you thought to be true in the first movie, and so people get very upset, and they're like, stop attacking me, in the same way that people get upset with deconstructionist philosophy. I mean, Derrida and Foucault, these people upset us. And then the third movie is the most ambiguous, because it asks you to actually participate in the construction of meaning, which is what most religious, the essence, the elementary particle, requires you to participate in the construction of meaning. And so, yeah, so the third one has a gigantic symbol in it that no one ever really discusses. We put it to him, actually. We were like, well, okay, what's the gold light? Right, so that's kind of the key. If you basically work on what the trilogy is all about, you come to this symbol that is never discussed. No one ever talks about it. No one even mentions it. No one refers to it. And yet it's there, clearly. The third movie actually begins with the gold light as a part of the opening title montage, as if to say to you, look, this is an essential element. This is as important as the Matrix code is, right? So that light is what the third movie is trying to solve post-deconstructing something like choice. So you can say like, okay, choice is important, choice is a part of everyone's lives, choices, but that paradigm of projecting choice is not different. It's a matrix, just like Catholicism or Christianity or symbols of metaphysics or really even philosophical constructs. This is why no one really mentions this, but everyone says, oh, simulacra, Baudrillard, you're referencing Baudrillard. But the point of the reference is that the book is hollow. It is itself a matrix. It is itself a construction, a projection, a tool for understanding the world or having a framework of meaning. That's what these things are. They're frameworks of meaning. So what we were trying to do is, can you encourage audiences to interrogate their own framework for meaning, and then through that interrogation, extend it into the experience of watching a piece of art, and then try to find meaning in that piece of art. In the same way that Neo has to go through this journey where he is told what to do, what to believe. First, everything is an illusion. It's revealed to be a construction. Then there's a new construction that's put on top of that construction. You're the one, blah, blah, religion, prophecy, oracle. So this matrix is like projected now onto the old matrix. And he's like, yeah, man, this is great. I can fly. I've got enlightenment. But then that enlightenment turns out to be false in the second one. It's like it's all a big lie. And so then he's like, whoa, what do I do now? It's all a big lie. And so that's what the third one is about. When we wrote the Matrix Trilogy, we had above our wall this amazing Schopenhauer quote that was the fundament upon all our knowledge and learning rests is the inexplicable. We're always interested, as storytellers, all three of us, in the nature of that inexplicability.
Hi, I'm Andy Wachowski.
And I'm Larry Wachowski.
Or rather, these are the digital projections of our mental selves.
First of all, congrats on reaching the final stage of this game. You kick ass.
Yes, we salute your excellence on the gaming field.
Now, the real reason we're here is to discuss the big problem we faced in turning these 3 movies into a video game. You see, at this point in the story, Neo stands on the verge of Satori, ready to resolve the paradox of choice and choicelessness, of free will versus fate, but that can only be achieved through an act of surrender, which occurs after he has abandoned the perspectival nature of truth, accepting the totality of present consciousness, which ultimately allows an evolutionary transition, transcending the Cartesian dilemma through the emergence of delimited spirit, which then provides the world with a choice of a third path, the path of Neo, the path of peace.
You promised you wouldn't do that. Shit. Sorry. I think what my brother's trying to say is, at this point, it's martyr time. Now, maybe that works in a movie, but in a video game, the Jesus thing is, well,
Lame.
really lame. If you're like us, then right now you're ready for 15 minutes of sweaty-palmed, button-pushing action to kick the crap out of some big badass boss.
So we suggested to Shiny that we change the ending.
We thought it would be cool after Smith rose up screaming, "It's my world." The other Smiths jumped onto him, merging into one massive monster Mega Smith.
So if you're ready, it's time for a little Hulk versus Galactus action.
Good luck,
You'll need it.
and enjoy enlightenment.
I mean, if the Matrix is an exploration of consciousness, those little tiny bits and pieces at the beginning of each of the films sort of tries to help you map it out a little.